Hi, I must ask you a question. You're probably wondering why you're here, and why this even matters and what culture shift framework is even about. Well, it's about leadership. And the thing about leadership is that it doesn't fall apart when things are easy. It falls apart when everything's on the line and no one steps up. So I learned this the hard way while I was out on the country for work, and one of our automotive customers had a full line stoppage. So if you've ever been in the automotive world, you understand that when an automotive line goes down, it's very costly and it's very time consuming. So it doesn't just trigger delays, it does miss shipments, stalled operations, scrap parts, and potentially millions in losses. So with that part, I didn't build the part, I didn't even inspect it. But because of the title that I had and the person covering for me who didn't own the role, they didn't follow the plan. They didn't verify the details. They didn't escalate when warning signs were there. And when the pressure hit, they had weekend plans, conveniently, right? We've all been there. The other part about this is that leadership didn't push back. They let it slide, no urgency, no accountability, it's just silence. So I did what ownership demands, right? I coordinated from the airport, from the hotel lobby, from the baggage claim. I'm making calls, trying to pull documents, trying to figure out how big this issue is, what the potential financial loss is to the company that I work for. It was nonstop. So that moment didn't just kind of wake me up. It kind of rewired everything about how I led. I stopped assuming that execution was happening, and I stopped thinking clarity meant action. And I stopped believing that culture meant ownership. Because what I saw was a system that looked fine on paper, but collapsed under pressure. And that's when I started building what would become the culture shift framework, which you're seeing now. So it's a leadership system built to eliminate role confusion, close accountability gaps, and fix execution breakdowns without burning people out. Because here's the truth. You don't need another leadership model that looks great on a poster, but it collapsed the minute that Alan from accounting goes on vacation. Sorry, Alan, you deserve your vacation. You need something that holds under pressure. When people are out, Alan, when roles blur, when expectation gets ignored, that's why the culture shift framework includes the grit check and the melt test. The grit check measures whether results are actually happening, not just talked about. The melt test, on the other hand, reveals whether execution holds under stress or falls apart without supervision. These aren't motivational tools. They're accountability filters built to expose drift before it spreads. That's what makes this framework different. It doesn't assume execution is happening. It verifies it. It's not a motivational speech. It's an upgrade for how leadership actually works. It's not about excitement, which it can be. It's about alignment, equipping people and helping team own outcomes without burning out, because structure drives consistency, but the human design of people still shapes how they execute. Now, if you're in HR or people leadership, you might be wondering, does this system support people or just enforce performance? And the answer is both, because HR sees the same pattern leadership often ignores. High performers silently carrying the weight, underperformers shielded by ambiguity, good intentions replacing real accountability, and let's be honest, HR has been watching this happen for years, usually with a smile and a long-ass document trail. So the culture shift framework doesn't fight HR, it enforces it. It gives you structure where subjectivity used to live. It builds fairness into your system. It eliminates dysfunction before it turns into burnout. Because empathy without clarity, that's burnout. Empathy without structure, that's chaos. Empathy without boundaries, that's your best people doing everyone else's job. This isn't harsh, it's honest. And honest systems are the one that actually protect your team. So if you ever sat in the meeting where everyone talked, but no one owned or really finished anything, carried more than your chair just because you could, or watched underperformance be protected while your best people drift away, this is the moment to reset. This is a leadership system installation that's going to be rolled out over 14 months. One breakdown at a time. Every month, we tackle one silent execution killer and give you what most organizations do not. Tactical clarity on what's really going wrong, a systemized approach to fix it, practical support materials to drive execution, and a direct connection to the execution first foundation and 5 pillars. So how it works is simple and powerful. So beginning of the month, there is a war room episode. So it becomes more than a moment. It becomes a full month transformational cycle. In week 1 of the month, we'll release the war room episode. Sorry. So it begins with a high impact episode that uncovers a hidden execution failure, like role dilution, unspoken backlogs, or misaligned leadership. We unpack the real cost, how it spreads, and why teams often normalize it without realizing the damage. So this is where awareness begins and accountability gets a spark. In week 2 will be when. Now that the issue is on the table, we bring clarity. This week is about eliminating the execution fog so teams can stop guessing, stop spinning, and start seeing clearly where breakdowns are happening. So what does it mean to win? You can't lead what you can't see. So win is about restoring visibility, exposing confusion, and laying the groundwork for decisive actions. In week 3 is align. Once there's clarity, it's time to align. This week focuses on reconnecting responsibilities to outcome, closing gaps, and making sure every role actually serves execution. So what does it mean to align? Clarity without structure still collapses. Align ensures your people aren't just clear on what matters, they're positioned to deliver it without stepping on each other or burning out. And week 4 is reinforced. This is where execution becomes habit. We help leaders lock in sustainable systems and rhythm that protects clarity and drive long-term results. So what does it mean to reinforce? Change doesn't last unless it's reinforced. Reinforce equips your team with repeatable practices that make execution second nature, not a one-time event. Each season contains 4 monthly episodes, each focused on a different silent execution killer. By the end of the season, your team won't just understand execution, they'll be operating inside it. Over 14 months, what we'll do is we're going to install a complete system built on execution-first leadership cultural shifts that are trackable, scalable, and permanent. A shared execution language across departments, roles, and leadership levels. This is how execution scales, not with theory, not with inspiration alone, but with clarity, structure, and a system that do the heavy lifting every single week. If there's one thing that you take away from this, let it be this. Execution isn't a department. It's not a job title. It's the culture that you allow or the ones you refuse to tolerate. And if you don't protect execution, you're protecting the very chaos that's burning your team out. The Culture Shift Framework is your execution operating system built from experience, grounded in clarity, and built to deliver. So subscribe now on YouTube, on the website, and then also subscribe to the system because execution doesn't wait. Your leadership doesn't begin when things feel better. It begins when you stop accepting drift and start building structure.